Imagine this. It's New Year's Eve. You hear the celebrations, the countdown, and then suddenly gunfire in a hotel parking lot. Or picture a bright college student, really passionate about her future, journalism, I think, and her life is just cut short by a stray bullet. These aren't, just random headlines. They're these really jarring moments that give us a glimpse into something complex, often heartbreaking. So let's unpack this for you. Our mission today, this deep dive, is really to explore these unspoken battles of gang violence right here in Sacramento. We've gathered a lot of material, official police reports, detailed court documents, community talks, and also something quite striking, the raw, unfiltered voice of this life from local drill music. We're going to look at how all these different stories weave together, showing you a side of the city that's often hidden, helping you understand the layers of street culture, the challenges the justice system faces, and the very real human cost.
Yeah, what's really fascinating, I think, is how you have these completely different sources, right? You've got the formal language of police statements, and then these incredibly personal, often really aggressive lyrics. But taken together, they paint this comprehensive picture. It's unsettling, sure, but it gives you a real sense of life and death in different Sacramento neighborhoods. Our goal here is to pull out those key insights, those important bits of information, so you can quickly get a grasp of the whole landscape.
Okay, let's start with the immediate impact, the really raw side of this violence. There was a very recent event in Del Paso Heights. It happened just after 10 p.m., a drive-by shooting on Clay Street in the 3900 block. When police got there, they found two people in a car, an adult man, an adult woman, both shot. And tragically, neither of them made it. Both passed away.
Right. And Sacramento Police Sergeant Zach Eaton, he confirmed it was a shot spotter activation. That's their automatic gunfire detection system. So it picked up the shots right away. He believed it was a drive-by. But, right at that moment, no suspect description, no vehicle info. It just shows how fast these things happen and how tough it is for law enforcement to catch up sometimes.
And what makes this even more, disturbing for you to think about is the context Sergeant Eaton gave. He pointed out that this incident meant 11 people had been shot in that north area in less than 1 week. 11. Now, police didn't think it was connected to another double homicide, which happened like 2 days before, only a mile and a half away, also in Del Paso Heights. But still, it really highlights a pattern, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It paints a grim picture. And right. Sergeant Eaton's message, it was really stark, really crucial. He said this violence is unacceptable. Plain and simple. He emphasized it needs to be confronted as a community together. He literally said, we don't have to live like this. And he stressed the trauma, the deep trauma it inflicts on everyone around. That's often the part that gets missed in the headlines, the ongoing psychological impact. His words really hit home the urgency of it.
Yeah, that call for community action, it's powerful. But it does make you wonder, what does community together actually look like on the ground, especially in areas maybe fragmented by these conflicts? Is that something achievable, or is it more, aspirational given everything we're seeing?
That's the real friction point, isn't it? Because on one side, you do have that shared trauma he talked about, grief, wanting safety that can bring people together. But then you've got this deeply rooted street code, these cycles of retaliation that actively push against that unity. It makes it incredibly hard for police or anyone to bridge that gap. So, yeah, it's not just about stopping the next shooting. It's about trying to mend a social fabric that's been seriously damaged.
And that immediate devastation, that's really just the surface layer, isn't it? To really understand the depth here, we need to look at how entrenched this is. And that starts with the very systems meant to provide justice and peace, like the legal system itself.
Exactly. Our first case study, this Ramada Inn murder, it really pulls back the curtain on the complexities and, frankly, the sometimes agonizing delays within that system. This happened right around New Year's Eve 2019, actually spilling into the very early hours of January 1st, 2020, in the parking lot of the Ramada Inn near Auburn Boulevard and Fulton Avenue up in North Sacramento.
The victim was Hubert Calamy. He was 23, allegedly part of the Oak Park Bloods. He was killed. 2 other people were shot but survived. One of them was Willie Bryant, 32, allegedly from the Stars gang. Now, Bryant told the police that even though they were from different sets, he and Calamy were friends. Calamy had apparently even mentioned some funk-like tension or a beef with a third gang earlier that night. The incident itself sounded brutal. A truck pulls up, lights off, 2 people get out, approach, and then just gunfire. Police found both .9 millimeters and .40 caliber shells there.
And pretty quickly, actually, within about 3 weeks, law enforcement made arrests. Elise Whitfield, Robert Massengale, and Darquan Jackson, all identified as alleged members of the Del Paso Heights Bloods. Massengale, supposedly the getaway driver, he eventually took a plea deal. Now, the alleged motive, at least according to rumors floating around on social media back then, was that Calamity had supposedly snitched on Whitfield in some police report. That's a huge violation in that world, the street code.
Right. And this is where it gets even more complicated. They had evidence, video from the hotel, video from a nearby market, apparently showing the suspect. Jackson's girlfriend at the time even saw him drop a handgun right before the shooting happened.
Yeah.
At Willie Bryant, remember, he was shot himself. He saw his friend Calamity get killed. You'd think he'd cooperate, right?
Right.
But no, he told police he wouldn't cooperate, cited that street code. It just shows you how powerful that unofficial system really is.
Yeah, and that street code, it's not just about staying quiet. It's almost like a parallel justice system, you know? It's built on this deep, deep mistrust of the official channels. And what this Ramada Inn case really highlights, kind of disturbingly, is how the state's own problems, like these massive delays we're about to talk about, can almost unintentionally reinforce that mistrust. It pushes people back towards that same street code because the official system feels broken or too slow.
And the struggle definitely continues even after the arrests are made. Get this. As of April 2025, so more than 5 years after Hubert Calamity was murdered, the trial for Whitfield and Jackson still hasn't happened. There isn't even a new trial date set. And they've been sitting in Sacramento County Jail since January 2020 without ever being found guilty by a jury.
5 years.
Wow. Yeah, Professor Gabriel Chin, he's a law professor at UC Davis. He called that extremely unusual. He estimated, a reasonable time for a felony case like this, maybe 3 months to 3 years max. Now, there were reasons cited for the delays, legitimate ones. An original defense lawyer passed away, another became a court commissioner, so they needed new lawyers appointed. Stuff happens. But the total length of time here, it seems, well, exceptional. And the impact is just huge, like Professor Chin pointed out. It's awful for the victim's family, just stuck in limbo. And it's tough on the defendants' families, too. He also made the point that cases generally get worse as time goes by. Memories fade, witnesses disappear, people move. It gets harder to prosecute fairly. The DA's office, they basically said, look, these complex cases with multiple defendants, they can take time. And other things have caused delays, but they hope to move this case along as quickly as possible. It's just such a stark example of justice delayed and all the problems that come with that.
Right. So while the formal justice system is dealing with these kinds of incredible delays, there's this other really powerful narrative playing out, not in courtrooms, but on the streets and online, the world of local drill music. And that brings us to an artist named Lil Rome. He's young, maybe 18 or 19, from South Sacramento, specifically the 77 G Parkway Mob Zone. That's a known street group, also called Ape Gang. And he apparently has real motion with the music, meaning he's getting traction, thousands of views on his songs.
And his music, it's a direct reflection, often a really brutal one, of that street life. You listen to tracks like Crisscross, Last Response, None Wit Me. The lyrics are filled with incredibly violent stuff. I mean, lines like, shoot your bitch ass, spit on the other nigga, stand over him, levitate it, knock his head off. It's intense. He talks about wanting to die, standing up not on my back, guns going off like a money counter, and just straight up saying, I'm the king around this bitch.
Yeah.
It's vivid, it's raw, and it doesn't hold back at all.
No, it doesn't. And these lyrics, they aren't just seen as, artistic license. In that world, they're often taken as direct challenges or statements of fact, declarations of allegiance, and what someone's capable of. There was a post on Reddit, for instance, alleging Lil Rome is heard to have 2 bodies, meaning 2 alleged killings and 1 attempt, including supposedly shooting a young teen in the head just for looking at him wrong, and also an alleged attempt on another artist, Lil Debo, who's from Del Paso Heights. Now, whether those claims are true or just street talk, they become part of his image, his reputation.
And his legal troubles are definitely real. He's currently locked up in Stockton, armed robbery with a firearm, reportedly facing maybe 20 years with a $700,000 bond set. He's been in jail for over a year already. The charges are serious. Conspiracy to commit robbery, first-degree robbery, and a gun enhancement charge, which carries a minimum 10 years just on its own.
And then there's this musical rivalry with Cardi B. He's another artist from Del Paso Heights, apparently considered a head guy, like a leader or influential figure for his side, GDE. They had tracks going back and forth, like Cardi B's Fresh Out, and another track, Lil 13's Nothing With Me, which apparently used some of Cardi B's lyrics, but actually got way more views, like 500K versus 200K or so. It highlights that competition, this whole conflict, this new generation stuff. It's described as really unapologetic, with tensions that go way back.
Yeah, but what's described as very weird about it, according to one source anyway, is that apparently people on both sides still have mutual friends. So it's not necessarily like a clear-cut North versus South, all-out gang war. It's maybe more like a free-for-all between specific individuals or smaller groups, which makes the lines kind of blurry and maybe even more dangerous and unpredictable, even for people inside that world.
And that Bay Area compass perspective you mentioned earlier, it raises this interesting point about Lil Rome's potential path. Some saw his music as his ticket out, his way out of the streets. And there's this expressed disappointment that he didn't, quote, stay focused more on the music than the street element. It really shows you the paradox, doesn't it? Drill music can offer this potential escape route through art, but its authenticity, which is key for credibility and getting listeners, often demands this deep, dangerous immersion in the very violence it depicts. It can trap artists in the exact cycle they might hope to leave behind.
That paradox, it leads us right into the broader toll, the really heartbreaking cost of all this. The innocent people caught in the middle, and the dangerous, often deadly path these Sacramento rappers seem to walk. We have to talk about Cabret Tackley. She was just 20 years old, a college student. Back on May 3rd, 2007, she was just sitting in her car, tragically in the parking lot of the Library Eats and Drinks bar right near Sac State, and she was shot in the head by a stray bullet.
She's completely innocent. Caught in the crossfire of a fight that started inside the bar and spilled outside. It was between rival gangs, the Oak Park Bloods and G-Mob. Her family described her as high-spirited and vibrant. Her father just devastatingly called what the shooter did acts of terrorism. The shooter, named David, he got 21 years. He was actually denied parole back in 2022. It's some measure of justice, I suppose, but for a life just senselessly destroyed. It's a stark reminder these conflicts don't just affect those directly involved.
And then there's another story, a guy named Danny, described simply as an innocent guy from CV Circle. Importantly, not from the Five, which refers to the 5th Street Projects, a known gang area. He was shot and killed near 5th Street. And apparently even members of the Five called him innocent. It just underscores that even within these really complex street dynamics, some lines are clearly seen as outside the conflict, yet they still become victims. It's tragic.
It really is, and it leads to this grim observation someone made that being a street rapper has been one of the deadliest jobs, especially over the last decade or so, largely because of social media. I mean, social media gives these local rappers way more attention, a bigger platform, sure, but it also puts its intense spotlight on everything: their lives, their families, where they hang out, even the cars they drive, which makes them incredibly accessible and potential targets for rivals. The tool for fame becomes a tool for danger.
We've seen it play out so tragically. Like with Lil Tice. He was a rising artist from North Sacramento, the North A Gators area. He actually just signed a record deal. He was killed on May 23rd, 2022. People described him as a real leader in his section. And then there's PQ, Paul Crow. He was Lil Tice's best friend from the Northgate neighborhood. Yeah. PQ had played football at Grant High, a big deal locally, but got drawn into street life. Did time for a gun charge.
Right. And after Lil Tice was killed, PQ was apparently pushed by his friend's memory to start rapping seriously himself. He sort of became the face of Northgate in a rap standpoint, carrying that torch. But then, just 4 months after giving an interview where he talked about how heartbroken he was over Lil Tice's death, PQ himself was shot in the head. Happened on Broadway, middle of the day, like 12:30 p.m., June 1st. He was in a car, he was in critical condition for several days and then passed away. And that shooting happened near territory associated with rival groups, the Franklin Nortes and Oak Park Bloods. It just illustrates this brutal, seemingly endless cycle.
It's just a devastating chain. So when you think about these stories, Lil Rome, Lil Tice, PQ, how does this public portrayal of street life in the music, how does it both reflect the reality and, maybe more disturbingly, how does it fuel the real-world violence, leading to these predictable, tragic ends for so many young artists?
It really feels like this dangerous feedback loop, doesn't it? The music chronicles the harsh realities of street life, which gives it authenticity, but then that very authenticity seems to demand that the artists keep living that life, or at least projecting that image, to maintain their street cred in their audience. And in today's world, with social media amplifying everything, every lyric, every post, every location tag becomes a potential spark or a target, it makes it almost impossible to separate the art from the reality without facing serious risks. It's a genuine trap, and it's heartbreaking to see.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Sacramento's unspoken battles, we've really covered a lot of ground. We started with the immediate shock, the devastating impact of gun violence, like that recent drive-by in Del Paso Heights. Then we look into the system, the complexities, the really agonizing delays in the justice system, highlighted by that Ramada Inn case, 5 years waiting for a trial, and how that can really erode public trust.
Yeah, and we dove into the raw, often violent world of local drill music through Lil Rome's story, seeing how that art form is both a reflection, a potential escape, but also a dangerous trap in itself. And throughout, we've tried to underscore the profound human cost, the innocent lives lost, like Cabret Takley and Danny, and the talented young artists like Lil Tice and PQ, whose potential was just tragically cut short by the very environment their music often described.
It's heavy picture, absolutely.
Uh,
But it feels crucial to really acknowledge all these different facets, these interconnected layers, if we're ever going to truly understand these challenges.
Definitely. And maybe if we try to connect all these pieces, the street violence, the systemic issues, the cultural expressions in music, it leads to a bigger question. Given everything we've learned from these sources, what responsibility falls on the communities themselves, on the artists, on the wider public? What role do we all play in confronting and maybe, just maybe, starting to change the narrative around these persistent cycles of violence? It's a question that goes way beyond Sacramento, really. It applies to any community facing similar struggles, and it's something we hope you, the listener, will continue to think about.